We're halfway through the month of November already, and so we need to do a check-in on how you're doing with the challenge that I threw out to you. The challenge was to write down where you envision yourself 1 year from now, and then write down what is it going to take on a daily basis for you to actually achieve that goal. And thirdly, to evaluate whether or not you're really being honest with yourself when it comes down to what you really want, and then whether or not what you're willing to do on a daily basis, and if that is aligned with what you say you really want a year down the road. I thought it would be helpful if I just shared my own process with you. When I go through this, which I do at the end of every year, I break it down into both professional goals and then my personal goals. So professionally, I'm just about to launch the Eat, Move, Live program, which is our brand new online coaching program, which I'm so excited about and has been in the works for nearly 2 years. So we're getting ready to launch that, and we have made that happen. But now, where do I see this program? So I set a goal that I want to reach 3,000 new people 12 months from now. Right? So that means 3,000 new people enrolled in this program, which is a pretty big task, right? We're going from 0, and I want to take that to 3,000 enrollees. Now, if I just look at that goal in and of itself, it's overwhelming. And then I self-doubt and say, like, you're never going to be able to do that. Who do you think you are? 3,000 people, that's a lot of people. And then on a daily basis, what I do is I self-sabotage by procrastinating and putting off the work because it feels overwhelming. So in order to alleviate that self-sabotage, I got to break it down to daily tasks. And then answering the question, is it realistic for me to expect to reach 3,000 new people within 1 year? And I've determined that yes, that is very realistic. The world's a big place. 3,000 people is nothing, right? But it is going to take some very dedicated practices on a daily basis from myself. So right now, what I have a tendency to do is when I get overwhelmed, is that I just fill my most productive and creative hours of the day, which are between 10 and 2 o'clock for me. I fill them with unnecessary appointments. So I get calls from previous clients or from friends. Hey, do you want to have lunch? I'm like, oh, hey, sure. Yeah, I would love to have lunch. Well, 11 o'clock on a Tuesday for lunch is the worst thing I can do for my business goals, right? Or I'll schedule things like a dentist appointment, which doesn't need to happen smack in the middle of the most productive time of my day. So when I step back and go through this process and write down, okay, what is it going to take on a daily basis for me to reach a bigger audience? It comes down to 1, absolutely no distractions from 10 o'clock until 2 o'clock every single day. So no scheduling lunch dates except for Fridays, and no scheduling any other kind of appointments midday. And then a big one is staying off of social media for me during that 4-hour window. Those are things that I actually can do, and that alone, even though it sounds so simple, is going to create so much success for myself because I'm not going to be allowed to avoid the real work that has to happen in order for me to grow the way that I want to grow. And then the second professional goal for me was just to get more comfortable doing public speaking. Not just public speaking, but even like doing these videos, which honestly, I end up with like anxiety over doing it. Like, am I saying too often? Am I nervous? Am I approachable? Do I seem genuine? Like I hate it. So the only way for me to actually improve those speaking skills and being comfortable on camera is by doing it more often. So on a daily basis, what that looks like is I actually have to be recording a video, even just a short 1 minute, 2 minute video every single day. And that is something that I can commit myself to. And then secondly, a bigger task was for me to take on more public speaking engagements. So I'm frequently asked to come and speak, and a lot of times I'll just say no. I'm doing one at the end of this month just to help me get over that anxiety of speaking publicly. This will be at the Women's Entrepreneurship Day here in Coeur d'Alene. It's for about 3,000 people. And at first, I told myself, oh, I'm not going to do that. It's in my local market. It's a small market. It doesn't really matter. I don't need to do that. It's kind of a waste of my time. Am I really going to reach anybody new? Yada, yada, yada. Well, then when I cut the bullshit and was honest with myself, it was that I'm scared to do it and I don't like to be uncomfortable. And so I was going to avoid it. Where the truth is that I need to take on every speaking engagement I possibly can right now in order to get better at it. So those were just some ways that I wrote down what I want a year from now. And then I broke down into daily tasks. What am I honestly willing to do? And then what am I actually capable of doing, given all the other demands in my life? And then adjusted those goals accordingly. And then on the personal side, I had my shoulder surgery in June. And it was a much bigger setback physically than I ever was expecting. The pain was much more severe than I expected. And then also I just lost a lot of muscle mass and I lost all my range of motion. So anyway, you've heard me go on and on about that. It's just been an alarmingly difficult physical setback. So when I wrote down what I saw myself accomplishing physically 1 year from now, there were two things. The first one was that I wanted to have back my pre-surgery performance level in athletics. And two is that I wanted to have my pre-surgery lean body back. Okay, those sound great. And I was like, you got this, no big deal. Well, then when I wrote down, what is it going to take on a daily basis for me to accomplish those two things? I realized very quickly that I was not being realistic in my expectations. So instead of saying I want to be at my pre-surgery performance level, which let's just be honest, my shoulder isn't the same anymore. That's unrealistic to think that I'm going to get 100% of that back in 1 year. So instead, what I did is I adjusted the goal to say I want to have pain-free movement and be able to move and do all of the things that I used to be able to do, even if it's not at the same level of performance. Because look, for me to be able to get that performance level back, it would take me doing rehab about 2 to 3 times a day, which is about 30 minutes each time. So there's an hour and a half. And then I also would have to be back to training 2 times a day, which is an hour-long aerobic session in the morning and about a 3-hour weight training session in the afternoon. So let's just think about that. I have these professional goals, which we just went through the demand time-wise on that. And now I think that I'm going to train for 4 hours a day and do rehab for an hour and a half. It's not going to happen, right? So you can see that if I didn't write that down and I didn't break it down into what the daily work involved really meant, then when I didn't reach those goals a year from now, what happens? I just beat myself up. It's like, you're never going to get your performance back. You're never going to be as good. You're just getting older. Just throw in the towel. Does it really matter? And all of those are just lies I would be telling myself because my goal in the first place was unrealistic. Does that make sense? It should. Think about your goals, especially physically. If you're trying to lose weight, what do you say you want? Do you say you want to weigh what you did when you were 25? Well, how do you even know that's a realistic body weight for you? Instead, write down what you say you want, and I would encourage you to make that more about the way your body looks and more about the way your body feels and less about a number on the scale. Numbers on the scale are just too arbitrary. You have no idea when you have an ideal body composition and your body is healthy and thriving, what your weight is really going to be. Okay. And so for me, that was the second part of my my personal goals and physical goals was that I wanted to be lean again like I was before my surgery. Well, that was like 13% body fat as a sustainable number, as low as 10. Now, that's great. I love the way my body looks at 10% body fat. I'm not going to lie to you. But what it takes on a daily basis for me to sustain that kind of body composition is just not realistic for what everything else I have going on in my life. And then quite honestly, I don't even think that I want it when I think that hard about it. So in order for me to have that lean of a physique, I would have to weigh and measure every ounce of my food. So as soon as I wrote down in my notebook here that I wanted to have that lean physique, and then what's it going to take on a daily basis, as soon as I wrote out weigh and measure every meal, I just stopped dead in my tracks and was like, Evie, that is not what you want. I do not want to weigh and measure my food every meal. And that's not even realistic based on all the other things that I'm trying to accomplish. So when I did some soul searching and got 100% honest with myself, the answer was, I don't want to be that lean. I like the way it looks, but I don't want to do the work that's involved in order to accomplish that. What matters more to me is launching my new brand and reaching a new audience and changing more and more lives out there. And I can't do that if I'm busy sitting in my kitchen weighing and measuring every meal and I'm in the gym training 4.5, 5 hours a day, right? So this process, you can see, hopefully when I point this out to you and lay out all of the steps, you can see how eye-opening and honest it requires that you get with yourself. So I encourage you to go through it. We're only halfway through the month. If you haven't started it, start now. And you can't just think about it. You actually have to write it on paper. So the steps you're going to take is you're going to get out a notebook, or hopefully you keep some kind of journal, and you're going to write down professionally, maybe spiritually, emotionally, relationship-wise, whatever is most important to you, physical body, what is most important, and where do you want to create the most change in your life 1 year from now? Write it down. And then spend quite a bit of time going back and writing down what is it going to take on a daily basis for you to actually reach that goal. And then after you've done that a couple of times, really get honest with yourself. Get totally real. Don't sell yourself bullshit stories and lies of what you're willing to do if you're not willing to do it. That is self-sabotaging and it will never work. What you need to do is go back to your original goal and ask yourself, do you really want that? And whether or not you're willing to do the work on a daily basis to achieve it. That is how you make constant improvement year after year after year in your life. But you got to get honest with yourself first. It's a tough practice. It's kind of messy. Sometimes it drags up a lot of things that you don't necessarily want to face, but it's real. And it is the real way for you to finally feel satisfied and accomplished and actually do the things with your life that really matter the most to you. So I would love to hear from you guys when you go through this process. Honestly, at this stage of building this new brand, all the interaction I get from all of you out there is so valuable. It keeps me showing up day after day after day, doing what I know I'm meant to do. So lean on me. Send me an email. You can just send it to evie@eviefats.com, or get a hold of me through my Instagram account or through my Facebook account, because I love to hear from you. And I want to know, when you really go through this practice, what you learned and what you discovered about whether or not what you're saying you want from life and what you're really willing to do, if they're really aligned. So we got 15 days left in this month. We're going to check in again at the beginning of December, and hopefully more of you have gone through this practice.